Okay, welcome. My name is Casper Edwards. I'm a PhD. I'm also an engineer, and I like technology. I work with, right now I actually work with Agile StageGate, which is a way of implementing innovation in companies or an innovation process. So we work with a number of Danish companies that are trying to become better at innovating. And I really enjoy this combination between technology and human, because it's always in interface between humans and the technology that's a problem. We always come up with good solutions, technology solutions, but it's the people side that's always a problem. So I like the reference to Iron Man. The reason why I like him is that he's an engineer, he works through people, he always comes up with a good solution. Of course, you've probably seen the movies. They're too focused on him, but behind that, there are always an organization. There's always someone working that takes his ideas and develops them even further. But we're going to talk about organization a bit, but I'm just going to keep the motivational speech just a bit. So, engineers are important. I think perhaps we are the most important occupational group in society. We are the ones that know science. We are the ones that transform science into products. We are the ones that come up with the good ideas. We develop the new products. We market them. We do everything. But we're only able to do that as engineers if we're able to understand our customer needs. What is it actually someone in the other end of the line, those which pockets we're trying to pick, what is it that they want? Do they want a nice, big, super technological solution, or do they just want something simple? Something they can use, they don't even have to think about it. Often engineers, and technologists for that matter, we have a tendency to say, well, I can make this a bit better. And engineers might be the best and also the worst salespeople in the world. The best engineers are salespeople, they can really pitch the technology. And the worst salespeople, engineers, are the ones that say, well, this version is really good, but the next version, much better. And if you wait until next year, then you're going to get the good version. Of course, no money, no next version. So we need to push the product. If you remember back to the days of the first iPhone, it was sort of brick-like. It wasn't anything, of course it was special, but compared to nowadays, there's really been some tremendous innovation. So we need to understand the economic implications of technology. We need to understand how these factors work. Because when we design engineering and design technology, we also create the economic foundation. We also create some economic and market dynamics, and we'll go back to that. And you have to couple all that to your engineering skills. And that's why engineers really need TEMO. So it's about technology, it's about products and methods, it's in procedures, it's about the economics, and particularly it's about the business model. The business model is, how do we get money from someone to ourselves? Do we have a mediator? Do we just approach the customer ourselves? Do we have a store we work through? What is the business model? What is it that make people actually pay us? Then it's about the management. There are some people, they have to fulfill their tasks and roles. And most of you are going to end up as managers within a fairly short amount of time. I think it's about 30% of you that will be team managers within a couple of years after graduating. And that means also being able to organize and coordinate work. That's something you have to do. You have to make your work happen through other people. It's not enough just sitting in the basement and working on your little thing. It has to go out. It has to be an economic life. So, how to understanding the task of making technology and engineering work, that is the essence of TEMO. So here's an example of technologies. We might divide them and say, well, here we have from one age, and here we have from a different age. And this is about understanding the customer needs. So question for you, using that, I mean, it is different technologies. We don't have to go into the technology analysis. Just take a couple of minutes, discuss between you. What is, if we say, well, here we have a modern, and here we have an old school example. Are these the same type of business models? Are these the same type of management you would use to develop these things or market them? What organizations will fit these different types of technologies? I mean, that's the old Captain Hook thing. And here we have something that it seems a bit more industrious. There's more preparation. Here we have the hyper-modern prosthetic limb. And here we have something that is different. That is 3D printed. So that's just the basics for you. So a couple of minutes, discuss What are the differences between these things? Begin. Okay, anyone want to take a stab at this? We heard that side before, so I'm just going to throw this. Catch. Thank you. So what do you see? Oh, it's just passing around? Yeah. It's like a boy floating. Someone has to see something. You talked a lot. It couldn't just be Twitter or whatever. God damn, you have to be better than this.
Well, come on.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I guess the first made out of need for something could have been made in war times when people had lost their limbs. And that was the biggest, the best technology they could achieve at that time. And the next one, well, the technology has just gotten better. And
so you're saying there's an innovation between these things. These are probably different generations, but are they marketed at the same place? Is it the same company?
No, I guess the first is not marketed. It's just made out of need because you can't have people running around without limbs. And you have to, yeah.
I like to see people without limbs running around, but that's a different story.
Yeah, but it's, I guess it's out of need. You need something to, if you want to have something to eat, you have to be able to use your limbs.
But do any of you see anything about the different business models here? Where would you produce this? Is that the local blacksmith? Is it a factory? Anyone said anything?
Yes, here. Can we have the mic in the front?
Oh, yeah. See, it doesn't hurt to get hit by the microphone.
Well, I think it's a local blacksmith, the first one. And the second one might be somewhere in the factory of Hitler.
Sorry. Yeah.
For some special occasions, to some special people, I don't know.
What do you see a differences between these two, markets and management?
One of it is made in Skylab and the other one made somewhere in NASA or somewhere really high-tech.
But if you are to market these, we know this is 3D printed. What does that imply?
Low cost.
It implies low cost. It also implies that you can print it yourself. You don't need a manufacturing facility. The basic business model, you want to throw that? Oh.
Do you want it?
Yeah. Other comments? No, but basically we have completely different business models here. Oh, sorry. Here, this needs a big corporation. We have polymer, we have technology, all sorts of stuff, and that needs to come together in a factory. It needs to be development and research. This is a couple of guys that have circulated an open source, what you call drawing on the internet. So there's no business model behind this. You just develop it because you think it's so interesting, and you share it, and you don't need resources to produce it because you just give it away. But of course, using it implies that someone needs to have a 3D printer. These are very much used in the third world because someone can pull up and just buy or borrow a 3D printer and use these prosthetic limbs. And it's easy to adopt and adapt to an individual. So completely different business model, basically the same product, but completely different business model, and it requires completely different organization. This doesn't require an organization. This requires someone who's brilliant. This requires huge organizational skills. People with expertise in different types of things that has to work together. Point is, engineers shape technology. Any of you play computer games? Don't be shy. You would be lying if you said no. Okay, some years ago, when you bought a computer game, you would actually go into a store. You would buy a DVD, a box set, a thing. Then someone came along and made a blockbuster, Half-Life. Excellent game, super nice. But what they also did, that they had an open API. So it was suddenly possible to add to this product. You could develop Counter-Strike. Wonderful game. Shoot terrorists, have fun, work together with your friends. The thing is, what they also did is that as this technology got adopted, they started to build in a distribution system. And that distribution system allowed them to distribute software. So when the next version of this game came along, it didn't come along as a hard box. It came along as something you would download as software. And suddenly you have what you call installed base. Someone had this delivery mechanism at their computer, which made this company suddenly very, very attractive to other software development companies, because they had companies, they had a business model, they had a way to get money from their customers. Now they just needed content. And they had one big major piece of content, and that would drive adoption. So here you designed a complete business model, and it's a classic business model. It's basically differentiate, do something different than your competitors, and cut out the middleman. So develop technology that allows the direct delivery, and it's a simple business model, but it's very brilliant. Excellent games, interact directly with your clients and your customers, control the sales channels, again, cut out the middleman, and get money directly from the customer. Nice and easy, no rent you have to pay, no added fee anywhere. And there are lots of other examples. Dell made the same. Cut out the middleman, sell using the internet, sell using phone, develop cheap computers. Apple iTunes Store on the iPod, same thing. Develop a system that allows you to do something. Apple just extend this a bit further because they made this compatibility standard. You can only use their device with their software, unless you hack it, of course. But the basic idea is that you can only use these things together. So they develop an ecosystem. This is our market. We have cut our share of the market, and we'll defend it vigorously. Here's an interesting prediction about YouTube. YouTube was a sort of a technology way of delivering video content. So if we go back in 2006, YouTube, not really interesting. Fairly good chance that the search company will never get any return on that investment. No one has come up with a business model. No one has come up with anything. And yet again, here, a couple of years down the line, there actually was a business model. But we have a new technology. But at that time, there wasn't really a business model. Now there's a business model around YouTube, and it's worth a lot. Probably more than that, I would assume. So, a quick quiz. Adding value means looking at the total product and service from the what? Company's perspective, supplier's perspective, competitor's perspective, or the customer's perspective. What do you think? Who should we look at? Anyone? We don't need the mic for that, just yell. Yep, exactly. The customer, we need to understand what the customer does. What do you want and how do you want it? I'm doing some consulting on the side. I'm also working with a small company that develops audio equipment. And it's very interesting to interview the engineers. They know everything about audiology, everything about sound quality, everything about developing materials and whatnot. But they know very little, surprisingly little, about what the customers actually want. They talk about size and they talk about quality, but perhaps the customer wants something that is easy to mount, that doesn't hurt when you put on the clip, that is quick, that might be able to, that you could use on a stage setting, and it doesn't smear if you use lipstick or whatnot. They don't know enough. So what they have to do now is that they have to go out to the customers, observe the customers using their products, learn what are the pain points, what are the problems, and integrate that knowledge back into their next generation product. And that's a typical mistake, or typical problem. We get caught up in the technology, we get caught up in developing the thing because it's logical for us, audiology, the sound quality, that's the top thing, so we only focus on that. But at a certain level, customers doesn't really care anymore. They want something else. Sound quality has to be at the right level, but then there's something else. There's accessories around it, there's a setup, there's something else that has to be driving the next generation. We also have a fun case, demise of Nokia. Some of you might remember that 10 years ago, there was a very big company called Nokia. They dominated the phone market. They developed great products. But how should we understand this case of Nokia and Samsung, which also developed software, phones that time, losing to Apple? Why did they lose so fast? What went wrong? Because this is a case about someone designing a technology that has specific properties. Ideas, comments? Or should I just... Did I break it again? No.
Hello? Yo, yeah. So actually, my former boss worked as a executive chief in Nokia.
Nice.
So
please share.
I can give some inside information on this. So the thing is, Nokia executive officers came into office one day holding the iPhone, and they said, "This is what we are competing against," and they looked at it and said, "It's stupid."
Sorry.
How do you write on it and stuff? So they didn't really understand that this would become a big technology with the smartphone and the touchscreen at that time. And also it has something to do with how they structured their management. Because back in the days, it was engineers in the managing positions of Nokia. And they started hiring like more business people into it, and they overtook for the engineers, and they lost contact with how the technology were actually developed.
So because of evil businessmen and non-engineers, everything went wrong?
Understand me correctly, they lost touch with the development of the products. They were just going in their own direction, thinking of new, great products, but didn't really think of how they were actually going to develop them.
Thank you.
So they lost like the balance between the engineers and the business people in the management.
Throwback. Sorry. First, someone else had a comment here? Yeah.
I think Nokia has some mistakes in software and integrations with the software with the phones. Actually, they don't look at software as a service-oriented problem that should deliver agile services to their customers. And customers, they have no opportunity to manage their own needs by using this kind of phones. So what's the difference, like iPhones, iPads, is that they have a good management to look at the simple way, the needs of their customers. They have to deliver services, and they have to do it with the quality of their own. That means the decision should be the customer's decision, not the company's decisions. And that's why most of us, as I see, use iPhone to manage most of our business cases daily. I actually look at the plans and manage our.
So there's something about software integration, applications,
and the management, and also the way they put the phones, layout of the phones. I think the iPhone, like iPhone and Samsung, they have a very simple but very advanced service-oriented.
So that's back to the technical explanation. So we have two competing explanations right now. One is something about management, and you separated engineering from management, and Nokia didn't really think anything good about this new technology or platform. So, and then the other is Nokia didn't understand the application integration, that this has to be some sort of whole. Yeah, stop. And you? Oh, watch it.
Hi. What I believe is that Apple actually did a good management thing. They created the needs. They started selling lifestyle. I'm not a big fan of Apple. And I think that...
You're not another big fan? Not a
of
big
Apple.
fan?
No, I'm
No.
not. Because all I think is that they just overprice somehow the products that are not like... They don't deserve to be sold that expensive. And when the first iPhone was out, all of a sudden a new lifestyle, a new way of life was created. And that's what Apple was based on. People's needs to show off somehow.
Perfect, thank you. Because this is a completely different, there's some value statement here. They don't deserve to sell their products. But who's to fault for selling products that expensively? Of course the customers, you're right. Oh, just the customers. We are so stupid. We like this new technology stuff. Could there be other explanations?
So, I'm not a big fan of Apple as well, but
Is there any fans around? Good.
they make their devices extremely simple. And as you mentioned before, they focus on making the own environment.
So the symbol and the design, that's something about what the customers want, so we are in some sort of usability?
Basically, when people started to using it, they got used to it so fast, and when they got into it, they started using different devices.
You're getting onto something, because
different
there's something
software,
about...
because it's environment they created. When you want to use one device, you need to get deeper. So you
And
just-
we're back to your argument about the
so
software
you're
integration.
starting getting more and more Apple stuff, even though you didn't want to at the beginning.
Good.
But still, if you want to come back to other devices, they are becoming a bit more difficult because of the simplicity of Apple.
You're onto something. I don't think it's about simplicity, it's about you get locked in. But it's the same thing, but it has several dimensions. You buy this device, there's software on it, you invest money in this software, and you get used to it. So there's a switching cost going from one technology to another. Are you willing to pay that switching cost? That switching cost is divided into both a learning cost. I'm used to doing this, it's so easy for me, and now I get this shit piece of blah, 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 I can't do anything, crap. I go back to my old Apple thing. So there's technology issues, there's switching costs, but there's also a different thing. And you're onto it about the software. Maybe you have something, that is, oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say that Apple, the way that they work is because their market's so exclusive and it's incompatible with everything else, that once people decide to try this new product that everyone else is trying, then they don't want to go back because it's not compatible with any other product that they might want to buy in a different market. So,
That's the word I was looking at, compatibility.
yeah, compatibility.
Because Apple was very good at making a market. They made a software platform, and on that platform they made it possible for other people to sell applications. So they didn't even have to deliver the content. At the time of Nokia, they would deliver most of the content to their applications or their platform. And they had several, because they had the Symbian, and that operating system was old. It was built for a stylus, so it was meant to be poking around. You couldn't use your fingers in the same way. And it was difficult for them to deliver content in the same way. They didn't have a market. And the different software you could develop wasn't compatible with each other. So even though you had a Nokia thing, then that software you bought might not fit the next Nokia phone you bought. It had a different screen size. You couldn't use the menus. Apple was very straight at making this technology. Comments?
I have two comments. Nokia, they should have hired Johnny Ive. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a fun one. No, the thing I know about Apple is they're really good at explaining their product in a way that it relates to people's life in a language that is understandable. They don't focus on the technicality.
They deliver solutions. If we compare the Microsoft way of delivering products, at least earlier, then you would get a framework like Microsoft Word, and you would get a lot of functions. And then it was up to you to translate those functions into an invitation, a spreadsheet, or whatever you needed. But Apple goes the other way and says, well, if you're going to do an invitation, we have all these templates for you. They help you all the way. But the thing is, When you do a hardware-software system, when you have compatibility, and you are able to exclude other people, then you build a specific type of market competition. A type of market competition where you have systems competing against each other, and usually what happens is that one system will dominate. And it goes very quickly because you have high adoption. The problem, of course, with technology competition is that it is often random. It depends on what is adopted first. I mean, if you were to start buying a new type of gaming console, and we were starting from one end, when we got to here, then you would probably choose the same console as the other guys, because you could share experience. You could share games, perhaps, and you could share and play together. So there's something about compatibility and standards where you create a system that is very, very strong in keeping other people out. And we've seen that before. There was a technology competition between VHS and Betamax. There was a Laserdisc, there was HD, DVD, Blu-ray disc. They deliver the same thing, but it's competing technologies. Would I choose a system that is different from my neighbor? If they have Blu-ray, would I choose HD, DVD? No, I wouldn't, because I would go to my neighbor, borrow stuff. So this is an economic issue here as well. And recently we've seen the same thing with mobile pay. They were two competing systems. They weren't compatible. You couldn't pay from one to the other. As soon as the majority has switched to mobile pay, who's going to use that? If you're standing with a bunch of friends and 5 of them got mobile pay and the 6th one, well, I got Swip. Okay, you're not part of the group. Sorry. Please leave. Yeah. Oh, sorry, a bit. Yeah, good.
In that case, I think it was also something about how easy it was to use one app compared to the other.
That's part of the adoption process. First thing is, perhaps you evaluate, oh, this is easier. And then if... and then you're standing there and seeing your friends have one technology and you choose, of course, that one. So back to organization. So question, organizational effectiveness means what? Doing the right things, focusing on reduction of costs, offering lower prices to win and maintain customers, or conducting market research to understanding competitors' activities. Which one? A, B, C, D. Quick, 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 quick. All of them. Who said that? No. It's doing the right things. It's simply, in a competitive setting, doing the right things. Of course, the other things can be part of it, but we always measure effectiveness as achieving the right goals. And we can achieve goals in many different ways. And effectiveness is perhaps one of the things that is really difficult to measure. But if we have different approaches, we can test them out, and sometimes one is more efficient than the other, or effective than the other. So what is management? When you have an organization, you have a collection of people who work together. That's basically when you do your group work in the afternoon. And to coordinate that group, we need managers. We need someone who takes charge and say, well, we're going to do it in this way, we're going to do it in that way, or perhaps we should make you two guys work together. But it's a skill, and it can be taught. And that's a good thing, because many of you will be managers, and not all of you will have talent. And those who doesn't have talent, work on it, please. It really can be taught. I mean, the Army has worked for years for programs that could identify those natural managers that wouldn't be shot by their own people once they get into battle. It's not working. It's a skill, it can be taught, and it's also a relationship between you as a manager and the group of people that you work with. And managers, they basically just have 4 functions, at least according to our framework. They plan, they organize, they lead, and control. And what they have to do is that they have to use the organizational resources in the most efficient and effective way. Efficient, that's sort of the economic side of it. Getting the best output with the least amount of resources. And effective, again, that is doing the right things in the right order. And that leaves us with one of these things we really like as sociologists. Although I'm an engineer, I do have a sociology thing. We like 2x2 matrices. So it leaves us in a situation where we can be very efficient and very effective, and that means our products are going to be so nice. In the other end of the scale, we have low efficiency, low effectiveness. That means managers choose the wrong goals. They make poor use of resources. And of course, they result in lower quality products. So discuss in teams, a company that is said to be slowly dying, painfully, squealing like pigs, are they efficient and ineffective? Are they efficient and effective? Or are they effective and inefficient? Or ineffective and inefficient? Slowly dying. What kind of company is this? 1 minute. So anyone has a comment on this? Who'd like to share?
I think that if they're dying, they're ineffective, they are pursuing the wrong goals. And I think they are doing so slowly because they are efficient, they are using their resources correctly.
Exactly. That is the logic. Because when you're efficient, you are actually quite good at producing, so you can lower your costs. But even though you can attract customers with lower costs, it's still ineffective because you're doing the wrong things. So in the long run, you will make the wrong choices, you will lose your customers, and you will lose your business. And it's going to be a slowly squealing death. There was just one comment from Julia that when we look at efficiency and effectiveness, it's within the company. We don't compare between companies. This model works within a company, so you look inside a company and say, well, are they efficient in that state compared to a future state or a past state? So it's internal in the company. We don't look at two companies and say, this company is very efficient, that company is less efficient, so they're unequal. There are other things. It's just internally. But the 4 functions of management, it's basically about planning, and planning is about deciding goals. That's the easy part. And then it's about deciding a strategy, course of action, and allocate resources. Guess which of these is usually a problem? Just a quick guess. Anyone? Organizing. Yeah, at least organizing, but if we just take these 3, organizing is always a problem. But if we just say decide goals and allocate resources and make the strategy, which one always causes problems? Yeah. Exactly, he said allocating resources. It's really pathetic. It sounds so simple. We were at a development meeting a couple of days ago, and we have set up this sprint meeting. We have to develop a new product very quickly, so allocate resources. And we have to be on market by summer, and people start to bring out their calendars. And suddenly the next meeting, oh, I can only do this, and we are 4 weeks out before we can find a meeting where the 3 engineers and the sales guys are present. I mean, this is really difficult in making quick product development. So allocating resources is always a problem. And in Danish companies or highly effective, not highly effective, in Danish companies where we have very expensive people, they're always doing all sorts of stuff, and they have their own agenda. So allocating resources is a big thing. Also work in hospitals, simple thing, get people to do a development workshop, analyze their processes. Yes, we can get managers, But who cares about the managers? I mean, we need to get information from people actually working with patients who know the processes, but we can't get them. We don't have resources to take just 4 or 5 hours out to do a workshop. So allocating resources is always a problem. And we have basically 2 different types of strategies, 2 major types of strategies. You can do cost strategy, in which you just try to undercut the competitors. Do it cheaper, or you can differentiate. And of course, Apple has chosen to differentiate and set exceedingly high costs, but it is a differentiation strategy, a really high differentiation strategy. And most of us don't want to do cost competition. It's much easier to persuade customers to buy something that is different than something that it's nice and it's just cheaper. I mean, then you get into raw materials and commodities where you can talk about cost. It's the same thing, but it's hard for the company. So basically just 2 types of strategies. Then we get into organizing, and that's where we have the goals and we know what strategy, or at least the course of action. Then we need to establish who does what. And it's quite simple. I mean, the question is who does what, how and why, or at least how. So the organization must fit the objective. Here you have a standard functional organization. You have research and development. That's where the engineers are, and you have production and marketing and accounting. And then I put in the picture to symbolize my audio company, which is not mine, but would be nice to be, if it was, because they're going to make money. If they're going to do a project, then the functional structure doesn't really fit. They need someone from development, and they need someone from marketing. Not production, because they outsource most of their production. Accounting and finance doesn't really interest, but marketing and research and development, those guys have to be together if we're going to do any sort of project. I also look at another company that makes radar systems. They decided to organize in a slightly different way. They actually use this as a model for their organization. So there's one group that makes the base, there's one group that makes the frame, there's one group that makes the antenna, and that's divided further into microwave and electronics and actually the frame up here. So they're organized in a highly, highly functional structure. And it works well because you have the competences within the functions. These 3 guys in microwave department, they are experts, and they have so much fun because they make their good stuff, and they come to work every day and develop new things. But when they're going to do a project, they don't get to meet the customer because they are faced with a tender. So doing projects only means having not marketing, but just the engineering departments. And then again, they have to draw from all the functional departments to develop anything. And this is basically a project-based company. So every time a customer comes in, we need something new. Okay, set up a project, develop it, and produce it. They also have a production on site. So we basically also have 2 extreme types of organization. We have the pure functional organization, and then all sorts of mix all around till we get to the pure project organization. And there's no right or wrong. It's just in the given situation, in the given market, the given context, that's where you have to decide, how should I organize my stuff? Then we get to leading. The most important thing is actually to create a vision. When you're going to do your project, someone is also framing a vision. We want to get a 12. We just want to pass. It is a vision. It is a goal. It is what motivates the group to do work at a certain level. So it's the energizer. And that's where the leaders or the managers come in. They are the ones that motivate. They are the ones that make people work together. So I actually stole those from the books, as you see. We only work with 3 levels of management, and of course the CEO. There's first-line managers, middle managers, top managers. And in my opinion, after studying lots of companies, this is where the magic happens. This is the guys who make people work, who make people come together, who make a team function. That also means, if you see how it changes the functions, the first-line manager has a lot of leading to do. Interestingly, the first-line manager, usually the least educated manager. As soon as we get to middle managers, they get money for all sorts of nice courses, and they go on Pathfinder and whatnot, and they turn out to be excellent managers, but they don't really need it anymore. That's a joke. But it's the first line managers that depends or determine how well a group is gonna function. They really need to know how to organize and interact with people. And that also leads, there's some ethics of management. We want you, and this is a value statement, we want you to consider, in your cases, the case for good management. You can be an evil manager that is not social responsibility, that is not sustainable, which means if you really squeeze the last drop of blood from your employees, then of course you have high production for a period of time, then you have employee turnover, then you lose knowledge. If you have a huge line of people standing outside that you can just take in, then it's not a problem. And the product you'd use is very simple. But if you have highly skilled engineers, you probably shouldn't squeeze them. It usually takes 1 to 2 years for a new engineer in a company to become productive and really add value to the company. So when you throw one out because you squeeze them, you lose money. Employee retention, that is the basic key here. So leading people, that's a skill again. And good leaders, they maintain this. They have high performance. We've seen it in tons of studies. They're assessed as being really nice people. They're assessed as being skillful and good at what they do. And they have high performers. They have high performance teams. This is about controlling. I like controlling. I like performance management. Performance management is also the grades you get when you're done here. That's our way of controlling if we're doing our job right. But in general, performance management systems and controlling, it's about measuring the numbers. What is it you sell? What is it you do? What is it you produce? How many ideas did you generate? How well does the system perform? But it also says something about the desire and the desired behavior. Because you can enhance different types of behavior by adding a premium. Well, you can say I can give you a bonus if you sell extra or you sell a number of stuff. So controlling is the skill of measuring performance. That might be process, that might be outcomes. And it is to follow up on targets. This is a little picture I took yesterday from a company this audio company. So the red one, that's last year's accumulated sale over the year. The green one, that is budget this year. And the blue one, that is actual sales this year. So a big gap here. So there's something about performance. There's something they need to do. They need to find out why we're not selling anything. Our product's bad, our salespeople bad. And when we find out something like this, then you need to take action. And you plan, and then you organize, and then you lead, and then you control. So this is a circle. It starts by controlling, and then plan, organize, and lead. But the essence of performance management, and I think you really need to remember this, you get what you measure, but do you really want what you get? Has any of you been exposed to performance management systems? Yeah. Was it a good experience?
Ish.
Ish? How were you measured, and then what were the consequences?
I worked at a company last year as a consultant, and I was measured with developing toolbars for PowerPoint. And I was measured by the number of licenses we sold. So I got some kind of commission there, but it was good, a lot of motivation, but at the same time, just started out, and it was kind of nerve-wracking, but I think I like being measured on performance, but it can get too much sometimes. But we sold quite a lot of licenses though, so.
Of course. That type of thank you. That kind of performance system where you just measure the amount of sales, it works really well if you're as an employee and your manager knows how to translate action into result. If the product you have is not really working or there's some problems in the market, then this is going to be really frustrating. And if you have that kind of performance management system, it's very easy for managers to say, well, it's your fault. We're going to have a break in a moment, but just another little example of performance management. This is from a big Danish hospital. It's a surgical department. They have 15 operating theaters and corporate, that means the political level says all operating rooms have to be booked Monday morning at 6 o'clock, so we make sure that we have 100% utilization. That's nice because it's a public hospital, so we're going to have full capacity usage. That's perfect for society. So of course the behavior is 100% booking. So what do you think happens in such a department? Is this a good performance measure? Could there be, this is almost a leading question, could there be a dark side to this? Yeah.
I think that there's a bit of a problem. If they miss, say, Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock, they have missed their goal. So maybe 100% is a bit too much.
100% is certainly a bit. Have any of you studied queuing theory? Okay, we've done that in Denmark since Erlang 120 years ago. We know that any system you load to 100%, you'll just have increasing queue, just because of the fluctuations in patients or customers arriving. So in this situation, the result was emergencies. Well, they do happen. Depending on the specialty on the hospital, you would have between 10 to 50% emergency every day. And here you were in a department where you had about 12-15%. And that was sort of a surprise, we're not prepared for this. So patient has been rolled in, prepped for surgery, and said, well, sorry, someone more important than you. We're just going to leave you over here. That's not good. Thing is, the performance management system only registered how patients were booked and if they were cancelled. In this situation, the patient was not cancelled. They were transferred. They were transferred from one date to another date. This wasn't registered anywhere in the system. And it wasn't really important. We interviewed the doctors. Well, not important. Never happens. No problem. The system is working. And then we took out a random week of patient files. Lots of patients, went through all of them. More than 80% of the patients that week had been set up for surgery, had been not cancelled, but transferred. So here you have a performance management that induces really psychotic behavior. Staff is struggling to complete, treatment quality is compromised, and it's just basically a crap system. So